In a whiteout above Leavenworth, a retired Navy SEAL stopped his truck for what looked like a shadow in the road. It was a German Shepherd mother, chained, bleeding, and curled around 6 freezing pups. Cole Mercer thought he was saving them from the storm, but the storm had brought him a mission that would save him, too. Heavy snow fell over the Cascade Mountains in thick, breathless sheets, turning the road above Icicle Creek into a pale tunnel of headlights and black pine trunks. Outside Leavenworth, Washington, the whole valley seemed to be holding its breath under the weight of winter. Cole Mercer drove with both hands on the wheel of his old black pickup, though the right shoulder under his waxed canvas coat had been burning since mile 6. He had bought lamp oil, dog food for no dog in particular, a bag of coffee, and the kind of pain pills that did not really help but gave a man permission to pretend. He was 38, retired from the Navy SEAL teams before anyone around town could decide whether to admire him or leave him alone, and he preferred the second option. His cabin sat 2 miles beyond the last plowed turnout, where the creek ran cold and angry under ice, and the pines made a wall between him and the polite questions of strangers. In town, they knew him as the quiet veteran who paid in cash, nodded once, and never stayed long enough for small talk to grow legs. That suited him. Silence did not ask him why he still woke at 2:17 every morning with his fingers clenched around empty air. Silence did not say Nathan Brooks's name. The road climbed, vanished, then reappeared under the truck like something Cole had to earn yard by yard. Snow struck the windshield so hard the wipers sounded tired of living. He leaned forward, jaw tight, reading the road by the faint rise of plow banks and the leaning ghosts of fence posts. A gust shoved the truck sideways. His shoulder flashed white. Cole breathed through his teeth and did not curse until the tires caught again. Then he cursed once, softly, for balance. The heater smelled of dust and hot rubber. The coffee in the cup holder had gone cold. He was thinking about the wood stacked beside the stove, about whether the south window would hold against the wind, about anything except the memory waiting under the day. On a hairpin bend where the trees crowded close, his headlights caught a shape in the road. Not a branch, not a trash bag. Something alive. Cole hit the brakes before thought finished forming. The pickup slid, fish-tailed, and stopped crooked across the lane with the engine coughing like an old smoker. For a moment the world outside the windshield was only snow. Then the wipers dragged the glass clear, and he saw her. A German Shepherd lay near the ditch, half buried along one side, her sable coat iced flat against her ribs, black saddle dark with wet snow, cream chest rising in shallow, uneven pulls. Her ears were pricked, though one ear had a torn edge that made it tilt. Her muzzle was black, her eyes amber and bright with pain. Around her belly, pressed so close they looked like lumps of dirty wool, were 6 puppies. Some moved, some did not. One had a pale gold wash through its fur and lay with its mouth open against the snow as if trying to drink warmth from the air. Cole sat still. The old emptiness opened under his ribs, sudden and familiar. There were moments in life that did not shout for a decision. They simply stood in the road and waited to see what kind of man you were after all your stories about yourself had gone quiet. His hand went to the door handle, then stopped. A German Shepherd mother in pain was not a wounded pet waiting for a kind voice. She was teeth, terror, milk, and duty. He could see the broken length of chain dragging from her front leg, frozen in places to the slush. The skin around it looked raw. There was blood in the snow, not much, but enough to make the storm feel colder. Cole turned off the engine. The silence came down hard. He opened the door slowly. letting the dome light spill over his boots. Wind slapped snow into his face and stole the warmth from the cab in one rude breath. He stepped out with his hands low and open, palms forward, the way he had approached frightened civilians, half-wild dogs on foreign bases, and once a boy with a grenade in a doorway. That boy had lived. Nathan had not. Do not go there. Not now. Cole moved sideways, never straight at the dog, each boot sinking deep. "Easy, girl," he said, his voice low enough that the wind almost carried it away. "I see them. I see you." The shepherd lifted her head a few inches. A growl came from her chest, thin, broken, and still serious. Good, Cole thought. Angry meant alive. He crouched 10 feet away and lowered his gaze. The nearest puppy twitched. Tiny ribs fluttered under a film of snow. Cole could smell wet fur now, blood, cold dirt, and something chemical beneath it, sharp as old disinfectant. He looked toward the tree line. No house, no porch light, no tire tracks except his own, fading under new snow. A dog like this did not walk here from town with newborn pups in a blizzard. Someone had brought trouble to the mountain and left it breathing beside the road. Cole shrugged out of his coat, and the cold went through his flannel like a knife. His shoulder hated the movement. He ignored it. Slowly, with 2 fingers, he set the coat on the snow between himself and the shepherd, then nudged it forward inch by inch. She snarled when the sleeve touched the pale pup. Cole froze. His knees ached. Snow gathered on his eyelashes. "You can bite me later," he whispered. "Fair arrangement." The dog's eyes did not soften. They measured him. Another puppy made a sound so small it seemed less like a cry than a thread snapping. Cole felt his chest lock. He had heard men call for their mothers in voices bigger than that. He had heard Nathan say his name once, not loud, because blood in the lungs makes a man economical. Cole reached for the pale pup. The shepherd lunged with what strength she had left, teeth flashing an inch from his glove. He did not jerk back. He let his hand stay in the snow, open, useless, patient. The dog trembled so hard her collar tag rattled, though there was no tag, only a metal ring and the broken chain. Her breath smoked in rough bursts. Cole waited. 1 second. 5. 10. The pale pup moved again, barely. The mother looked at the pup, then at Cole's hand. She did not give permission. She simply failed to stop him. That was enough. Cole slid the coat over the puppies, careful not to trap them under its weight, and scooped the pale one into his palm. It weighed almost nothing. That was the terrible part. Almost nothing, and yet his whole life shifted around it. He tucked the pup inside the coat near his chest and reached for the next. The shepherd made a low sound, not quite a growl this time, more like pain being asked to wait its turn. "I know," Cole said. "I know." He gathered the pups one by one, counting under his breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th did not move at all until his thumb found a faint tremor beneath its jaw. He wrapped them together and stood too fast. His vision sparked. The shoulder screamed. He took 2 stumbling steps back to the truck, placed the bundle on the passenger seat, turned the heater vents toward them, then came back for the mother. She tried to rise. Her back legs slid out from under her. She hit the snow with a sound that went through him. Cole knelt beside her, close enough now for her teeth to take his wrist if she chose. "I am not leaving you," he said. The words surprised him. He had said them before, in another country, under another sky, and the world had made a liar of him. The shepherd stared at him, and in her eyes was the plain animal truth that promises meant nothing until hands proved them. Cole slid his arms under her chest and hips. She snapped once, weakly, at his sleeve. Then her head dropped against his forearm. She was lighter than she should have been, all bone, wet fur, milk, and stubbornness. He carried her to the back seat, laid her where she could see the coat bundle, and shut the door against the storm. As he climbed behind the wheel, a sound rose from the woods behind him. Not wind. An engine. Low, rough, coming closer through the trees. Cole looked in the mirror. Far back among the pines, a pair of small headlights winked on, went dark, then appeared again, closer than before. Snow closed over the mountain road behind the pickup, erasing tire tracks almost as fast as Cole made them. The cabin by Icicle Creek waited in the dark with one porch light burning, a small square of amber against a world gone white. Cole drove the last 2 miles with the heater blasting and one eye on the mirror. The lights in the trees did not follow all the way, or maybe the snow swallowed them, which did not comfort him much. In the back seat, the German Shepherd mother lay stretched on an old wool blanket he kept for emergencies he never named. Her eyes stayed fixed on the bundle of pups warming on the passenger seat. Every few seconds she lifted her head, checking, then dropped it again when pain took the strength from her neck. Cole spoke to her through the rearview mirror. "Almost there, girl. You hold that line." The words were simple, but his voice found a rhythm he had not used in years, the low cadence men use in the dark when panic has to borrow their breath. At the cabin, he backed close to the porch, left the truck running, and opened the front door before unloading anything. Heat rolled from the stove in a smoky wave. The room smelled of pine ash, coffee grounds, oiled tools, and the loneliness of a place where one person used only what he needed and nothing more. Cole cleared the floor with one sweep of his arm, knocking a stack of mail and an old field manual onto a chair. He brought the pups in first, still wrapped in his coat, and laid them on a towel near the stove, but not too close. Too much heat could finish what cold had started. He knew that from training. He knew too many things from training. The mother came next. She growled when he lifted her, and he could not blame her. "Put it in writing," he told her, grunting as his shoulder caught. "I will file a complaint." Her jaws parted, but no bite came. He carried her inside and set her near the doorway, facing the pups. That mattered. A mother who could see her young might stay in this world a little longer. Cole fetched towels, a basin, the emergency heat packs he kept in a drawer, and a bottle of electrolyte solution left from a winter search years ago. He did not own baby bottles. He did not own puppy formula. He barely owned dishes that matched. The pale pup twitched under the coat. Cole dropped to one knee and rubbed its chest with 2 fingers, slow circles, careful as prayer. "Come on, little one," he murmured. "No dramatic exits." The pup gave a thin squeak. The sound hit the room like a match. The mother lifted her head. Cole looked at her. "See? Complaining already. Takes after you." Her ears flicked. Not trust, not even close. But the growl loosened by half a thread. He found the nearest working phone under a pile of receipts and called Snowline Rescue, though he knew the place had been half closed since the fire. Claire Bennett answered on the 4th ring, breathless and annoyed. "If this is about a raccoon in a chimney, tell the raccoon I respect his choices." "It is Cole Mercer," he said. "I found a German Shepherd mother and 6 newborn pups on Icicle Road. Heavy exposure. Mother injured, chain wound, possible sedation. I need help." Silence snapped clean on the other end. Then the annoyance vanished. "How long exposed?" "Unknown. Pups cold, some responsive, 2 weak. Mother conscious, protective, dehydrated, sable coat, black saddle, torn ear, broken chain still on front leg. Do not remove the chain unless it is cutting circulation. It is close. Then do not be heroic. Keep them warm, not hot. Rub the pups. Check gums if you can. I am coming. Road is ugly. So am I before coffee. The line went dead. Cole almost smiled. Almost. He worked until his hands lost feeling. One pup, dark with a black muzzle, rooted blindly against the towel. Another had a white blaze on its chest and made angry little punching motions with its paws. The pale one, the weakest, breathed wrong. Each inhale a hill too steep. Cole warmed a drop of electrolyte on his finger and touched it to the pup's mouth. Nothing. He tried again. A tiny tongue moved. Good, he said too sharply. The mother tried to drag herself closer and failed. Her front legs shook around the broken chain. Cole got low beside her, never reaching over her head. I am going to look. Just look. She bared her teeth. He turned his face aside and placed his hand flat on the floor between them. It was a ridiculous negotiation, but pain understood posture better than language. The chain had rubbed raw under her dew claw and along the wrist joint. There were older marks, too, half-healed bands around the neck where a tight collar had sat too long. Near her shoulder was a small puncture, too neat for a bite. Injection. Cole felt anger rise, clean and dangerous. He pressed it down. Anger had uses, but not near newborn lungs. Outside, wind shoved snow against the cabin walls. The roof creaked. The creak under the ice made a dull knocking sound, like someone beneath the floor asking to be let out. Cole did not look at the clock. Clocks had been unreliable since Afghanistan. Time came in other measurements now. A pup's breath, the stove's glow, the distance between a growl and silence. When headlights finally washed across the front window, the shepherd jolted upright and nearly collapsed. Cole stood between her and the door. Easy. Mine. He heard himself say it before he meant to. Mine. Not ownership. Position. Responsibility. The knock came once, brisk. Claire Bennett entered with snow crusted to her gray knit cap, a red parka zipped to her chin, and a leather medical bag that looked older than both of them. She was 34, lean, dark-haired, and sharp-eyed in the way of people who had learned tenderness did not require softness around the edges. She took in the cabin, the dog, the pups, Cole's bare arms, the blood on the towel, and said, "You took your coat off in a blizzard for a dog that wanted to remove your hand." She made a persuasive argument. Most good mothers do. Claire moved slowly after that. She did not rush the shepherd. She did not stare into her eyes. She knelt sideways, opened the bag, and let the smell of cotton, antiseptic, and medicine enter the room before her hands did. "Hey, beautiful," she said to the dog. "You look like you have opinions." The shepherd growled. Claire nodded as if receiving a formal introduction. Strong opinions. Cole helped where he could. Claire checked the pups one by one, warming, listening, counting heartbeats. She mixed formula from packets in her bag and fed the two strongest by dropper, then the weakest with a patience that made Cole's chest ache. "Pale male," she said, "badly chilled. He may not make it." Cole looked at the pup, then away. He opened his mouth earlier. "That helps." "Name is Scout," Cole said. Claire glanced at him. "Already?" "Temporary. That is how they get you." The mother watched every movement. When Claire examined the chain wound, the shepherd snapped so close the air clicked. Cole lowered his hand to the floor again. The dog shifted her gaze to him, trembling. Claire saw it. She has chosen you as the least terrible person in the room. High honor. For a German shepherd, yes. Claire trimmed fur around the wound, cleaned what she could, and found a sliver of white plastic tangled deep in the sable coat near the collar line. She eased it free with tweezers and held it under the lamp. Numbers. A torn strip from a transport seal. Her face changed. Just a little. Enough. Cole saw it. You recognize that? Claire set the plastic on a clean cloth. Maybe. That is not an answer. No, it is the beginning of trouble. She scanned the dog for a microchip. The reader beat, searched, failed, searched again. No registered chip, not even an old one. Claire's jaw tightened. A breeder's dog with no chip, a broken chain, injection mark, newborn pups in a blizzard, and a numbered seal. That is a story somebody does not want told. Cole looked toward the window. Snow pressed against the glass, thick and blind. For a second, he thought he saw movement beyond the porch light, a dark figure where no branch should be. Then the wind shifted, and the shape was gone. On the table, the strip of plastic shone under the lamp like a small white bone. By morning, the snow had not stopped. It had only changed its mind about direction, falling sideways across Icicle Creek and piling against the cabin until the lower windows looked out into a white wall. Inside, the room had become warmer, messier, and more alive than it had been in years. Towels hung from chairbacks. A saucepan of water steamed on the stove. 6 puppies lay in a wooden crate padded with flannel shirts Cole had not worn since before the Navy sent him places he still visited in dreams. Nova, as Claire had begun calling the German shepherd mother after seeing the white star-shaped patch hidden low on her chest, lay beside the crate with her injured leg stretched stiffly forward. She did not like the name at first. Or maybe she liked it and hated that humans had guessed anything about her. Either seemed possible. Cole had slept 20 minutes in a chair, if that counted. He woke with his hand hanging near the crate and the pale pup, Scout, nosing weakly at his knuckle. That small, damp pressure nearly undid him. Claire noticed and wisely pretended not to. She was bent over the torn transport seal with a magnifying lens from her kit, her hair escaping from its tie in dark strands, her eyes narrowed. "Cascade Canine Security," she said at last. Cole poured coffee into 2 mugs and handed one over. "That means something to me?" "It will." She set the plastic down. "Wade Turner runs it out past Peshastin, on private land behind the old fruit warehouse. Officially, he trains security dogs. Guard work, patrol basics, obedience packages for people who like black gates and cameras. Unofficially? Breeding without records. Dogs sold across state lines under other names. Fighting lines mixed into working lines. Sedatives used when temperament is inconvenient. I tried to report him last winter." Cole watched Nova shift her head toward the pups, counting them by scent. "Tried." Claire blew on her coffee but did not drink. "My rescue burned 2 nights later. Electrical, they said. I had old wiring, so the explanation wore clean shoes. No proof of anything else." Her voice stayed steady, which made the wound in it easier to hear. Cole knew that trick. Put the pain in uniform, make it stand still. Why is he still open? Money, friends, fear, and the kind of paperwork that looks complete if nobody reads it with a flashlight. A puppy sneezed. Cole looked down. The black-muzzled female had rolled on her back and was kicking at nothing, furious with the air. Claire smiled despite herself. "That one is going to run a small kingdom someday. She can have the taxes." The smile faded when Scout coughed. It was not much, just a small hitch,
but Claire moved at once. She lifted him, touched his gums, checked his temperature, and her expression went professional in the way that made Cole's stomach drop.
He is slipping colder again. What do you need? More heat packs, antibiotics if the cord site turns, and anticonvulsant if that tremor becomes a seizure. I have some here, not enough. My clinic has the rest. Road? Bad. So we wait. If we wait too long, he may not. Cole looked at the pup in her palm. Scout's eyes were sealed, his muzzle no longer than Cole's thumb. His whole body fought for warmth with a bravery too small to be fair. Then we do not wait too long. Claire heard the edge in his voice and looked up. Cole, you are running on pain and coffee. Been worse places with worse breakfasts. That is not the same as being able to help. He almost snapped. The words rose fast, bitter and ready. Then Nova made a sound. Not a growl, not a whine, but a low rumble directed at both of them, as if she had no patience for human pride while her child was cold. Cole let the words die. Smart dog. Irritating dog. He crossed to the shelf where an old radio sat beside a box of screws. The county cell signal had vanished before dawn, smothered by storm and terrain. The radio still worked when it felt generous. He adjusted the antenna, turned the dial, and caught static, then a burst of a weather warning, then more static. Claire gave him a frequency for the sheriff's office. He tried it. On the third attempt, a man's voice broke through. Chelan County, Pike speaking. Claire's shoulders tightened. Cole glanced at her. Deputy Pike, this is Cole Mercer off Icicle Creek Road. We have an injured German Shepherd mother, 6 pups, possible evidence connected to Cascade Canine Security. Severe exposure. Need road status and possible assistance. Static chewed the line. Then the voice returned, heavier. Mercer? Nathan's Cole Mercer? Cole went still. Claire looked from him to the radio. Snow hissed against the window. Nathan's name entered the cabin like cold water under a door. Yes, Cole said. It cost more than it should have. Owen? Yeah. The voice changed again, smaller for half a second. Road crews are blocked at the lower washout. I can try snowmobile once visibility clears. Do not move the dogs unless life critical. Do not release them to anyone claiming ownership. Claire leaned toward the radio. Owen, we found a transport seal. Numbers begin CCS7. Silence. Claire. Yes? Another crackle. Lock your doors. That was all. Not surprise, not doubt. Lock your doors. Cole's gaze lifted to the wall where his old rifle hung above the coat hooks. He did not reach for it. He had promised himself years ago that not every problem would begin with metal in his hands. Still, he marked its place. You know something, he said into the radio. Owen exhaled, the sound rough through static. I know enough to tell you I should have listened earlier. Claire's face shut down. Not angry exactly. Worse. Tired. That is a conversation for when dogs are not dying, she said. Agreed, Owen replied. I am coming when I can. Nobody gets inside until I arrive. The connection broke. The cabin seemed to lean inward. Cole set the radio down and checked the lock on the front door, then the back. The back door opened toward the woodpile and the narrow path to the creek. Snow had drifted high against it. He wedged a chair beneath the knob anyway. Claire watched him without comment. Her silence was not fear. It was calculation. Wade will know she is missing, she said. If Nova was his breeder, and those pups are worth money, yes,
If she is evidence, more than money. Cole rubbed the scar line beneath his shoulder through his shirt. He left her in a storm. Maybe she escaped. Maybe someone dumped her after she whelped. Maybe they were moving her and the storm did what storms do, turned plans into wreckage. Nova raised her head when Claire said her name. The shepherd's amber eyes moved to the window, sharp despite exhaustion. Cole followed her gaze.
Nothing but snow. Then the radio, still on the table, crackled without anyone touching it. A different voice came through, low and close, as if the speaker stood just outside the glass. "Return the mother and stay warm, hero." Cole turned slowly. Claire's hand closed around the edge of the crate. The puppies stirred, sensing the change in the room without understanding it. On the hill beyond the cabin, half hidden by blowing snow, a pair of headlights blinked once, went out, then came back on nearer the tree line. The afternoon over Icicle Creek turned dim before it should have, the sky lowering until the cabin seemed tucked inside a snow cave. Wind moved through the pines with a dry, scraping voice, and every branch that brushed the roof sounded like a hand testing for weakness. Cole turned the radio volume down, not off. A threat could become information if a man did not let fear do all the listening. Claire moved the puppy crate away from the window and closer to the stove, then covered 3 sides with a dark towel so the pups kept heat without being sealed from air. Nova watched the whole operation with the severe expression of a queen displeased by renovations. When Claire reached for Scout, the shepherd's lips lifted. Cole lowered himself to the floor beside Nova, shoulder complaining. "She is not stealing him," he said. "She is the one with the tiny bottles and terrible bedside manner." Claire did not look up. "My bedside manner is excellent." "I only insult patients who improve." The black-muzzled female squeaked as if offended. The sound startled a laugh out of Cole, quick and rusty. It surprised him so much he stopped. Claire noticed that too, and did not mention it. She had the discipline of a good medic. Let the living show signs of life without pointing a lantern in their faces. They worked through the day. Feed. Warm. Check gums. Change towel. Check Nova's wound. Start again. The rhythm steadied the room. Cole had forgotten that order could be kind. In the teams, order had been survival, a way to make chaos obey for a few minutes. Here it was smaller, softer. A bottle warmed in a cup. A pup placed back beside its mother's belly. A log added before the fire sank too low. Scout made it to another feeding. The pale fur along his neck dried into soft spikes, and his mouth latched once, weak but real, around the dropper. Cole looked away so fast Claire's mouth twitched. "Temporary name, huh? Operational designation." "Of course." Nova gave a tired huff. If dogs could call men fools, that huff did the work. Near dusk, the first hard knock came against the window behind the stove. Cole moved before he knew he was moving. His hand went to the table, knocked over a mug, and his body was no longer in the cabin. It was snow, but not this snow. Rock walls, white breath in a night vision glow. Nathan saying, "Left side, Cole," and then the bright crack that turned the world into pieces. He could smell cordite, burnt dust, blood warming under body armor. His right shoulder locked so hard pain roared up his neck. He did not hear Claire at first. Then her hand wrapped around his wrist, not gripping like restraint, just present. "Here," she said. "Cole, here. Stove, wood floor, puppies, my voice. You are in Washington." His lungs refused. She did not raise her voice. "Find 5 things."
He wanted to tell her he had done harder things than count furniture.
He wanted to be angry, because anger made a better wall than shame. His eyes caught the stove door, orange coals, the blue mug rolling under the chair, Nova's torn ear, Scout's tiny paw against the towel, Claire's hand on his wrist, steady even though her own fingers were cold. The cabin returned in rough pieces. He dragged in a breath that hurt. "Branch," Claire said, nodding toward the window. "Only a branch." Cole looked. A pine limb, heavy with snow, had fallen against the glass. Not a shot, not a breach, just weather. He pulled his hand back slowly. "I know. Now you do." She gave him that much dignity and let go. Across the room, Nova had risen halfway despite her injured leg. She stood between the humans and the crate, swaying, hackles lifted. Cole exhaled, almost a laugh, almost not. "You too, huh?" The shepherd stared at him as if to say she had been managing him from the beginning. A little after dark, Owen Pike arrived on a snowmobile with blue lights taped off under a layer of snow and a face made red by weather. He was 42, stocky, with a trimmed beard and the uneasy eyes of a man carrying old hesitation like a hidden injury. He stepped inside and removed his hat when he saw Nova. Not for Cole, not for Claire, for the dog. That counted for something. Nova growled. Owen stopped at the threshold. "Fair?" he said. Claire kept feeding a pup. "You look older." "Storms do that." "Ignoring reports does too." The words landed without drama. Owen accepted them. "Yes." Cole watched him. The name Nathan sat between them, heavy and waiting, but nobody touched it. Owen opened an evidence bag and collected the transport seal without stepping close to the crate. He photographed the chain wound, the injection mark, the broken links, the window line, the snow outside. "I should have pushed harder on Turner last year," he said finally. Claire did not answer. "Nathan sent me something before he died," Owen continued, looking at Cole now. "About dogs moving through private security contracts. I thought it was one more rumor from a man who had been stateside too long and slept too little." Cole's jaw tightened. "Nathan did not send rumors. I know that now." The fire cracked. Cole's right hand trembled once, then stilled. He could have used the anger. There was plenty of it. But Scout chose that moment to sneeze formula onto his own nose, and the tiny, foolish sound cut a hole through the room's darkness. Claire wiped him with her thumb. Nova lowered her head to sniff him and seemed offended by his lack of dignity. Owen huffed a laugh before he could stop himself. Even Cole's mouth moved. A little. The cabin needed that sound. It needed proof that fear had not rented every corner. Owen left 2 charged radio batteries, a spare sidearm Cole refused, and a promise to station a patrol at the lower road when the plows broke through. "Turner has friends," he said. "He will use smiles before force if he can." "Smiles do not bother me," Cole said. "They should. A smile lets a man get closer." Owen had just stepped onto the porch when a crash split the room. The back window exploded inward. Snow and glass sprayed across the floor. Nova lunged and collapsed, barking with a hoarse fury that made every pup cry at once. Claire threw herself over the crate. Cole turned toward the sound, heart slamming, and this time the past came for him but did not take him all the way. On the floor lay a fist-sized stone wrapped in duct tape. Owen drew his weapon outside. Cole picked up the stone, peeled back the wet paper tied around it, and read the block letters by firelight. "Snow buries evidence. By dawn, so will we." Morning came pale and bitter, with snow still falling so thick The creek below the cabin sounded farther away than it was. The world outside had no edges, only white pressure against glass and timber. Cole boarded the broken back window with a shelf torn from the pantry and 2 pieces of scrap plywood while Owen stood watch on the porch and Claire checked the pups by the stove. Every hammer strike traveled up Cole's right arm and settled in the old damage beneath his shoulder blade. He kept swinging anyway, because there were worse things than pain, and one of them was standing still while trouble took its time. Nova sat upright beside the crate, exhausted, eyes burning. She had barked herself hoarse after the rock came through, and now every breath rasped in her throat. When Cole crouched near her to check the blanket under her injured leg, she leaned forward and pressed her nose to Scout's back. The pale pup lay too quiet. Claire lifted him, and the room changed. Not dramatically. There was no music in real fear. No sudden shadow across the wall. Only Claire's mouth flattening, her fingers moving to his chest, her eyes counting what Cole could not see.
"His temperature dropped again," she said, "and the tremor is worse." Scout's tiny body jerked once in her palm. Nova whined, a raw sound that made Cole's stomach knot. "Tell me what you need." "Anticonvulsant, more formula, fluids. I have enough to keep him a little longer. Not enough if this turns." Owen looked toward the window. "My unit can try to meet halfway." Claire shook her head. "The clinic has dosing charts, sterile supplies, and the thermal pad. I need to go myself." "Road is still half buried," Owen said. Cole reached for his coat, remembered it was wrapped around the pups the night before, and grabbed a spare parka from a hook. "Then we make it half unburied." Claire looked at his shoulder. "You should stay. I can drive. You can suffer quietly."
Different skill. Nova growled softly, as if voting against everyone. Cole bent near the shepherd, careful. "We are bringing medicine back," he said. "Owen stays, your pups stay. I stay alive if she drives, apparently." Claire muttered, "Progress," and began packing. Leaving the cabin felt wrong in a way Cole did not like. He had defended rooms before. He knew the sour taste of stepping outside a perimeter when something precious sat inside it. Owen checked his radio, locked the front door behind them, and promised twice that no one would get near the dogs. He did not say he was sorry again. That helped. Apologies had weight, but right now weight slowed people down. The pickup fought the road from the first turn. Snow dragged at the tires, wet and heavy beneath the fresh powder. The plow had made one pass hours earlier, and the storm had treated that work as a suggestion. Cole drove with his left hand doing too much, and his right shoulder sending hard, bright warnings every time the truck fishtailed.
Claire sat beside him, one gloved hand on the dashboard, the other gripping the medical bag in her lap. "You are not impressing anybody," she said when the rear wheels slid near the ditch. "Good. I would hate to start now." "Pull over." "No." "Cole." He hated the way she said his name. Not soft, not pleading, simply accurate. Another mile passed. His shoulder locked on a switchback, and for a second his fingers lost strength. The truck drifted. Claire grabbed the wheel, calm and furious. "Pull over before your pride kills a puppy." That did it. He braked too hard, cursed the snow, the truck, his shoulder, and some weather pattern over the Pacific that had never done him personal harm. They changed seats in the storm, awkward as teenagers and twice as stiff. Cole slipped on the running board and barked his shin. Claire looked at him over the hood.
Very elite. Classified maneuver. She drove better than he wanted her to. Not pretty, not fast, but she knew the mountain. The hollow dips where meltwater ate under snow, the bend where tourists always overcorrected,
the old logging spur that could cut 10 minutes if the creek crossing held. "Sergeant Brooks taught me this road," she said after a while. Cole looked at her. "Nathan?" "Before he deployed the last time. He volunteered at Snowline when he was home. Mostly fixed gates and pretended not to like puppies." Cole stared through the windshield. The snow ahead blurred. "He liked mutts." "He liked anything that trusted him after being given reasons not to." Cole's throat tightened. He said nothing, which was the only thing he could manage without breaking something inside his own chest. Leavenworth looked deserted under the storm. Bavarian storefronts softened into white shapes, flags snapping hard from dark poles, sidewalks shoveled and buried again.
Claire's clinic stood behind an old pharmacy, a low building with blue trim and a sign half hidden by snow. Inside, she became faster. Shelves opened, drawers slid, labels clicked through her fingers. Cole stood guard by the front window because there was nothing useful for him to do except notice danger and carry heavy things. Across the street, a dark blue SUV idled near the feed store. Too clean. Too still. A man stepped out wearing an expensive down jacket and no hat, as if the weather owed him courtesy. Wade Turner was tall, silver-haired at the temples, and handsome in the rehearsed way of men who used mirrors as witnesses. Another man waited near the SUV, broad-faced, camo jacket, hands red from cold. Wade crossed the street with a smile already in place. He entered without knocking. "Claire Bennett," he said warmly. "I heard you had an eventful night." Claire locked a drawer with one clean click. "News travels through blizzards now?" "Concern travels. A dangerous dog loose in a civilian home is community concern." His eyes moved to Cole. "And you must be Mr. Mercer. Navy man, I am told. I appreciate service. I also appreciate people knowing when they are out of their depth." Cole did not move. There was a small space between Wade and Claire. He filled it without making a show of filling it. Wade noticed. His smile thinned at the edges. Claire set her phone on the counter with a photo of the transport seal enlarged on the screen. "You mislaid something." "Numbers on plastic mean very little." "Then you will not mind Deputy Pike comparing them with your shipping records?" Wade's gaze cooled. "A frightened, injured shepherd can hurt children, livestock, neighbors. If she belongs to one of my contracted breeders, I have the facilities to handle her." "She was chained and sedated." "Accusations are weather, Claire. Loud, passing, impossible to hold." Cole felt the old heat in his hands, the efficient part of him calculating distance, grip, the weak points in Wade's posture. Then Claire's fingers brushed his sleeve, not stopping him by force, only reminding him of Scout. The pup mattered more than the punch. Wade looked pleased, as if he had seen the struggle and mistaken restraint for fear. "Be careful driving back," he said. "Storms make people disappear." When he left, the clinic kept the smell of his cologne, clean and expensive over antiseptic. Claire opened the back window for 3 seconds to clear it, though snow blew in. Her hands shook once as she packed the medicine. Cole pretended to check straps on the supply box and let her have the privacy of not being watched. On the way back, the storm thickened. Twice they had to stop and clear branches. Once, a slide of heavy snow blocked the road and Claire took an old orchard cut-through that scraped both sides of the truck. The sky was turning the color of pewter when the cabin roof finally appeared between pines. Cole saw the back door first. It stood open. Not wide, just enough. The kind of open that meant violence had already entered and left. He lifted one hand to stop Claire. Blood darkened the snow on the porch boards. Inside, the cabin was too quiet.
The crate by the stove held 5 pups, crying weakly. Nova was gone. Scout was gone. From the woodshed came Owen Pike's low, broken groan. Snow fell harder as evening gathered under the pines, swallowing the last color from the sky above Icicle Creek. Around Cole's cabin, every track looked fresh and old at the same time, softening under new powder while blood stayed dark on the porch boards. Owen Pike lay half-buried in split logs and torn feed sacks at the back of the woodshed, one hand pressed to his temple, his breath fogging in short bursts. Claire reached him before Cole did. She dropped to her knees, opened her medical bag, and spoke in the crisp tone that did not waste fear. "Owen, look at me. Do not sit up. How many fingers?" "Too many," he mumbled. "That is usually true." "Funny, doctor." "I am a veterinarian. You are getting barn manners." Cole stood at the shed door with a flashlight low, scanning the ground, the tree line, the drag marks. His body wanted pursuit. Every part of him not trained by grief wanted to run into the woods until he found Nova, Scout, and whoever had brought harm to this place. But Owen's rifle leaned untouched inside the cabin. The dog crate had not been overturned. The 5 pups lived. That meant the attackers had known what they wanted. It also meant they might have left traps for the man angry enough to follow fast. Cole hated that thought, because it was true. Owen grabbed his sleeve as Claire pressed gauze to the wound. "Do not charge in. Talk." Owen swallowed, eyes unfocused. 2 masks. One came through back while I checked the window board. Other stayed tree line. They had a pup crying on a phone or recorder, something like that. Nova lost her mind. I tried to block her. She went through me like I was furniture. Claire's jaw tightened. "They took Scout?" "Bag. Small canvas bag." She followed. One man dropped something, maybe blood, maybe bait. I went after, took a hit. Woke up with firewood for company. Cole crouched. "Direction?" Owen pointed toward the old logging trail that cut north of the creek. "Do not go alone." Turner used wire snares back there years ago. Dog traps, coyote sets. Ugly stuff. Some legal ones, most not. Snow hides all of it. Claire was already packing tools, hemostats, wire cutters, bandages, a small vial of sedative. "I am going." Cole turned on her. "No." She did not flinch. "You do not know how to open a trap without crushing tissue. You do not know dosing if Nova goes into shock. You do not know which track is hers and which is a man dragging a bag." "I know how to track." "Men, maybe. Not a bleeding mother dog in fresh snow while you are angry." That landed harder than he wanted. The 5 pups cried from inside the cabin, thin and frantic. Nova's absence had changed their sound. Cole looked at Owen, then at Claire. There was a time when he would have made the decision because he was strongest, fastest, most trained. That time had left. Or maybe it had only been a story men told each other to feel less afraid. "You lead," he said. Claire blinked once, surprised. Then she nodded. "Owen stays with the pups. Owen may have a concussion. Owen also has a radio and enough guilt to keep him awake." Owen gave a weak thumbs up. "Doctor's orders." They moved quickly. Cole settled the 5 pups with warmed packs and formula, placed the crate where Owen could reach it from the floor, and rechecked the cabin locks. He took a headlamp, a knife, rope, a wool blanket that still smelled of Nova, and the old rifle from the wall. He carried it muzzle down. Claire noticed, but said nothing. Outside, the snow closed around them at once. The tracks began at the back door. Nova's deep, uneven prints, one foreleg dragging slightly. 2 sets of human boots, a long smear where something had brushed the powder. Drops of blood, small but vivid. Cole started forward, then stopped when Claire touched his sleeve. Not there. She pointed left with her flashlight. The obvious trail is too clean. See how the boot prints are deep in a straight line?
Someone wanted us to take that. Cole looked closer. The drag mark continued straight, but near a cedar trunk, almost hidden under falling snow, a tuft of sable fur clung to bark. Nova had turned. Good eye. Useful eye. Compliments later. They followed the real trail into the trees. The world changed 10 yards from the cabin. Wind softened. Snow fell quieter. The forest held sound the way a church holds candlelight. Cole heard the creak under ice, the tick of snow sliding from needles, Claire's steady breathing ahead of him. She moved with care, reading marks he would have missed, fur on a branch, the faint crescent of a dog's pad where powder had drifted, a broken twig higher than a fox would break it, the sour chemical smell on a scrap of burlap. Sedative residue, she said, lifting the cloth with gloved fingers. They tried to dose the pup or the mother. A small cry came from somewhere ahead. Not wind. Scout. Cole moved before thought caught him. Claire's hand shot back, palm flat. Stop. It was the smallest command, and taking it was harder than any mile he had run under gear. He stopped. She crouched, sweeping light low. There, half buried under powder, a loop of dark cable lay between 2 roots. A snare. Another step would have tightened it around his ankle. Cole's mouth went dry. I owe you. Keep walking slowly, and we will call it even. They pressed on. Twice more she found wire. Once Cole saw the mark first, a strange smoothness where snow bridged metal, and Claire gave him a quick nod that warmed him more than it should have. The trail dipped toward a narrow ravine where old logging equipment rusted under moss and snow. The smell changed. Wet iron. Dog fear. Blood. Nova answered Scout's next cry with a sound so low it went through Cole's ribs. They found her beneath a cedar root at the ravine bottom. The German shepherd lay on her side, body curled around the pale pup. Her front leg was caught in a rusted jaw trap hidden under the snow. The trap had closed above the paw, cruelly tight. Scout wriggled under her chest, alive, cold, and furious in a tiny way. Nova lifted her head when Cole stepped down. Pain made her eyes wild. She did not know him at first. She saw only another human shape coming through snow. Her teeth flashed. Cole took off his glove and placed his bare hand flat on the ground, 10 feet away, just as he had done in the cabin. It is me, he said. Cole. The bad coffee guy. The blanket thief. Remember? Claire moved to the side, slow as moonrise, tools open in her hand. If she bites, do not pull back, she whispered. If I lose a finger, I am naming a puppy after it. Focus. Nova's growl shook. Her trapped leg trembled so hard the metal teeth worked deeper. Cole crawled closer, inch by inch. Snow soaked his knees. His shoulder screamed. He kept his voice low, telling Nova nonsense about the stove, about the bossy black-muzzled pup, about Scout being too stubborn to leave because apparently stubbornness ran in the family. Nova's eyes flicked from his face to the blanket in his hand. The blanket smelled like her pup's, milk, smoke, and the cabin. She stretched her neck and touched it with her nose.
That was the opening. Claire slid the cutters into the spring. Metal creaked. Nova convulsed. Scout cried. Cole threw his body over the pup and held the blanket near Nova's muzzle without pinning her head. "Almost," he said. "Almost, girl. Hold for him." The trap opened a finger's width, then another. Nova howled. Claire's face went white with effort. The paw came free. Blood spilled dark onto the snow. Cole wrapped the leg while Claire packed the wound, and for one blessed second the forest seemed to exhale. Then a branch cracked above them. Cole looked up.
On the ridge of the ravine, a man in a camo jacket raised a rifle into the falling snow. Night dropped early over the ravine, and the snow turned the beam of every flashlight into a narrow white tunnel. Beneath the cedar roots, Nova lay with her freed paw wrapped in blood-dark bandage, Scout tucked under her throat, and Cole Mercer kneeling between them and the ridge where the rifle had lifted. For half a heartbeat, nothing moved. The man above them wore a hood and camo jacket, his face hidden by a gaiter, the rifle angled down through branches heavy with snow. Cole saw the muzzle, the gloved finger, the uncertain bend in the man's elbow. Not a professional. Dangerous anyway. Men did not need skill to ruin lives. "Down," Cole said, shoving Claire toward the trunk. The shot cracked across the ravine. Snow burst from a cedar limb overhead and fell in a heavy sheet, smothering light, sound, and breath. Cole landed hard on his bad shoulder. Pain flashed so bright the forest disappeared. He was not in Washington. He was back under a white ridge in Afghanistan, where snow and dust had mixed under rotor wash, where Nathan Brooks had laughed through cracked lips because the alternative was screaming, where the radio had spat coordinates no one could reach in time. Cole's hands lost the present, his chest locked. Somewhere close, Scout cried, but the sound tangled with Nathan saying, "Do not leave me, brother," though Nathan had never said it like that. Memory was a liar with a good voice. Cole could not breathe. Claire crawled through the fallen snow, grabbed his sleeve, and put her face near his. She was shaking too. He could see it. That helped more than calm would have. "Cole, listen. You are here. Nova is here. Scout is under your arm. My light is on your left. Snow, not dust. Cedar, not stone. Breathe with me." A second shot did not come. Instead, there was a curse from the ridge, then the hard crunch of boots slipping. Nova growled, low and terrible, though she could barely lift her head. She knew the direction of danger. Even with blood soaking her bandage, even half-starved and drugged and hunted, she shifted her body so Scout stayed behind her. That pulled Cole back. A mother with one working leg was still doing her job. He could do his. He dragged air into his lungs. Once. Again. The ravine returned. Claire's gloved hand, the smell of iron, Scout's small body under his forearm, the dark shape above them moving sideways between trees. Cole lifted his rifle but did not fire. Too much snow. Too much uncertainty. Claire was in the line below. Nova was exposed. Anger demanded a shot. Training denied it. He shifted position instead, placing himself between the ridge and the dog. "Drop it!" he shouted. The man hesitated. From above and behind him came another voice. Owen Pike, hoarse and furious. "Sheriff's office! Rifle down now!" Lights cut through the trees at the ridge. 2 more beams. The camo man turned too late. There was a scuffle in the snow, a grunt, the dull sound of a body hitting frozen ground. Another figure bolted between trunks. Cole saw only a blue flash of jacket before the trees swallowed it. Wade. Had to be. Owen shouted, but one of the other deputies yelled that they had the gunman.
The fugitive engine of a snowmobile roared to life beyond the ridge. Cole forced himself not to chase. Nova could not move. Scout was barely warm. Claire had blood on both gloves and snow in her hair. The old Cole, or the version he sometimes missed and sometimes feared, would have gone after the fleeing man until his body failed. This Cole stayed. It felt like losing for 3 seconds. Then it felt like wisdom, with a bitter taste. Owen slid down the ravine on his backside, awkward and pale under the bandage Claire had taped to his temple. "You alive?" he called. "Define alive," Cole answered. Owen reached them and saw Nova's paw. His face changed. "God." "Later," Claire snapped. "Help me move her."
They used Cole's blanket and Owen's emergency tarp as a sling. Nova fought once when Scout was lifted away from her muzzle. Cole placed the pup against her cheek, and she quieted, trembling with the effort not to bite the people who were saving her. That restraint humbled him more than obedience would have. Obedience could be trained. Restraint in pain was chosen, moment by moment. Getting out of the ravine took forever. Snow kept filling their tracks. Owen's deputies hauled the captured gunman up first, then returned for Nova. The man in camo cursed until Owen leaned close and said something too quiet for Cole to hear. After that, the man looked less confident. At the ridge, they found the snowmobile tracks and a duffel bag dropped near the trees. Inside were wire snares, 2 vials of cloudy sedative, spare transport seals, and a folded list of road names. Claire photographed everything with hands that no longer shook. One of the deputies found a small ledger wrapped in plastic under the snowmobile seat. Not Claire's burned records, not Owen's reports. Wade Turner's own shorthand, ugly and neat. Dates, initials, litter numbers, payments, disposal notes. Owen held it under his light. His face went gray. There was a page marked Brooks. Cole heard Nathan's name and felt the ground tilt, but this time he did not fall into the past. He looked at Scout, alive against Nova's muzzle. He looked at Claire, who had gone very still. "Bring it," he said. His voice sounded like gravel. "All of it." They started back toward the cabin in a slow procession. 2 deputies carried Nova in the sling, with Cole walking close enough for her to see him. Claire held Scout inside her coat, checking his warmth every few minutes. Owen limped behind with the evidence bag tucked under his jacket like something sacred and poisonous. The captured gunman rode on a deputy's snowmobile, wrists tied, eyes no longer brave. Above the trees, the storm thinned just enough to show a torn scrap of moon. The cabin lights appeared after what felt like hours. Inside, the 5 pups woke at the smell of their mother and began to cry. Nova answered with a broken whine and tried to rise before the sling touched the floor. Cole knelt beside her. "Easy, you made it." Claire gave Scout back, setting him carefully beside his siblings. Nova counted them with her nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She counted again. Then she laid her head on the floor and closed her eyes for 3 whole breaths. It was the first time Cole had seen her rest. Owen placed the ledger on the table, still sealed in plastic. Snow melted from his sleeves and dripped onto the boards. "Cole," he said quietly. "Nathan tried to tell me." Cole did not look at him yet. He watched Nova breathe. He watched the pups root against her belly. Outside, far down the valley, a snowmobile engine faded into the storm, carrying Wade Turner away from the ravine and into the dark. The next dawn came silver and hard over Icicle Creek, laying a thin blue light across snowdrifts taller than the cabin porch. The storm had not ended, but it had paused, and that pause felt less like mercy than a held breath. Inside the cabin, the German Shepherd mother slept in pieces. Nova would drift for 5 minutes, then jerk awake and counter pups with her nose. Scout twice, the black-muzzled female once with clear disapproval because that one kept crawling over everybody. Claire had cleaned the paw, started antibiotics, and muttered at the old cabin table until it surrendered enough space to become a surgical counter. Cole boiled water, washed towels, fed the stove, and carried whatever Claire pointed at. He liked being given tasks. Tasks had edges. Feelings leaked. Owen sat near the door with the ledger sealed beside him, radio in hand, trying to coordinate deputies, animal control, a judge, and a plow crew through static that seemed personally offended by law enforcement. His head wound had slowed him, but not stopped him. Every now and then he looked at Cole as if there were words forming behind his teeth. Cole did not invite them out. Not yet. Around mid-morning, Claire changed Nova's bandage. The shepherd endured it with the grave resentment of a patient who considered medicine a character flaw in humans. When Claire flushed the wound, Nova snapped at the air, nodded her hand. Claire nodded. "Better aim today. I appreciate the courtesy." Cole was holding Nova's shoulders, not pinning, just steadying. He felt the dog tremble beneath his palms. She smelled of antiseptic, smoke, milk, and wet fur. She also smelled alive. That became its own kind of miracle. Owen's radio crackled. "Pike, we have vehicle tracks leaving Turner property toward the old rail warehouse. Main house is empty. Office cleared out. Repeat, cleared out." Owen swore under his breath. Claire looked up. "He is moving evidence." Cole stood too quickly, shoulder flaring. "Then we move." Claire pointed a roll of gauze at him. "No, we think." "Thinking is moving, if done right," Owen said, pushing himself up. He winced, then tried to pretend he had not. Nobody granted him that kindness. "Turner will burn whatever is left. The warehouse has kennels. If he has dogs there, he may dump them or use them as bargaining chips." Cole looked at Nova. Her ears had lifted at Wade's name, or maybe at the tension in the room. "She can track him." Claire's eyes sharpened. "She is not a tool." "I know." "Do you?" It was not accusation. It was a locked door with a key on his side. Cole looked back at the shepherd. Nova had been used enough by men who thought usefulness was the same as ownership. He crouched in front of her, hand flat on the floor. "Not asking you to fight," he said softly. "Not asking you to belong. If you know where he took the others, we could use your nose. Then you come back to your pups." Nova stared at him. A dog did not understand warrants, arson investigations, or the human appetite for hiding wrong inside business names. But she understood scent. She understood the man who had caged her, the place where the air tasted of fear, the difference between command and request. When Cole held out the scrap of burlap from the ravine, Nova leaned forward, sniffed, and gave one low growl that raised the hair on his arms. They did not take her far. Claire would not allow it. Nova rode in the back of Owen's county SUV on blankets, with Scout and the other pups left at the cabin under the care of one deputy who looked terrified of both newborn dogs and Claire's written instructions. Cole sat beside Nova, one hand near but not touching. When they reached the old rail warehouse west of town, the snow had begun again, fine and glittering. The building stood beyond a chain-link fence, its metal siding patched with plywood, its roof sagging under drifts. Wade Turner's blue SUV was parked near the loading door. So was a box truck with the Cascade Canine Security logo half scraped from the side. "He is still here," Owen said, "or wants us to think he is." From inside came a bark.
then another. Not Nova's. Many dogs. The sound rolled through the warehouse, frightened, hoarse, furious. Nova rose despite her injured paw and barked once, deep and commanding. The whole building answered. Cole felt it in his sternum. Claire's face changed in the same way it had when she saw the transport seal. Pain, becoming purpose. Owen called for backup, but backup was 20 minutes out on roads that had eaten better plans. Smoke slipped from a vent near the roof. Thin, gray, growing. "He is burning records," Claire said. Cole was already moving. Owen caught his sleeve. "No solo hero work. I am opening a door. That is what solo heroes call it. Then come open it slower." They cut the chain at the side entrance.
Heat and the sharp stink of smoke pushed out. Inside, rows of wire kennels lined the walls. German shepherds, Malinois, mixed working dogs, some scarred, some underfed, all barking toward the light. At the far end, Wade Turner stood near a burn barrel, feeding folders into flame. His smooth hair had come loose. Without the clean office and the careful smile, he looked smaller, not harmless, but ordinary in the ugliest way. "You people have no idea what you are interrupting," he shouted. "Those dogs have buyers, contracts, value." Claire moved to the first kennel. "They have names whether you know them or not." Wade lifted a pistol. Cole stepped between him and Claire before thought became language. His own rifle stayed low. "Put it down." Wade's hand shook. "You think you are saving everything because you once failed somebody else?" The words hit, but not where Wade aimed. Cole had already been there. The wound had a door now, and it was not open for Wade. From behind Cole, Nova barked again. Somehow she had pulled free from the SUV, limping through the open doorway on 3 legs, eyes blazing. The dogs in the kennels erupted. One slammed its body against a latch already weakened by rust. Another began chewing at a tie. The building filled with sound, not chaos exactly, but testimony. Owen came through the side door with his weapon raised. "Wade Turner, drop the gun." Wade backed toward the loading bay. "You do not have enough to hold me." Owen held up the ledger in its clear bag. "We have your writing, your seals, your sedatives, your dogs, and a witness list that barks." For 1 second, Wade looked at Nova, and fear crossed his face. Not fear of being bitten, fear of being known by something he had considered property. The pistol lowered a fraction. Cole moved then, not with rage, not with the old hunger to end a threat by force, but with clean speed. He knocked Wade's wrist aside, twisted the gun free, and stepped back before his shoulder failed. Owen took Wade down into the wet concrete slush. Claire and the deputies arriving outside began opening kennels. Dogs stumbled into the cold air, coughing, barking, leaning into hands they did not yet trust. Nova stood in the doorway, swaying, watching them pass. She did not run to Cole. She did not need to. He went to her. Smoke curled over the roof into the snow. Sirens came closer through the valley. Wade Turner shouted about lawyers, contracts, and stolen property until one of the rescued shepherds, a gray-faced male with tired eyes, lifted his leg on the front tire of Wade's blue SUV. Claire looked at Cole. Cole looked back. Neither of them laughed loudly, but the laugh was there, small and badly needed. Then Owen emerged from the warehouse carrying a half-burned folder against his chest. His face had gone blank. He opened it just enough for Cole to see the name printed on the top sheet. Nathan Brooks. The snow eased that evening, leaving Leavenworth wrapped in a silence so clean it almost seemed forgiven. Up at Cole's cabin, however, nothing felt finished.
The rescued dogs from the warehouse had filled Snowline's burned-out property, the county shelter, 2 barns, and half the goodwill of the valley by nightfall. Claire had driven back and forth until her face looked carved from fatigue. Owen had booked Wade Turner, filed emergency seizure papers, and argued with a judge who did not appreciate being called during dinner, even when dinner was probably soup and the matter involved 37 dogs. Cole brought Nova home after Claire insisted the shepherd would tear out every stitch in a clinic kennel and ruin everyone's evening. Nova returned to the cabin like a wounded officer inspecting a poorly run base. She limped to the crate, counted all 6 pups, sniffed Scout until he squeaked, then lowered herself with a sigh that sounded too large for her body. Cole sat on the floor beside her, back against the wall, one knee bent. He had changed shirts twice and still smelled like smoke. His shoulder had stiffened into a block of hot stone. He did not care. The pups nursed in a clumsy pile against Nova's belly, their tiny paws pushing, mouths working, bodies alive with the greedy seriousness of survival. The black-muzzled female kept climbing over Scout, who objected in a voice no bigger than a hinge squeak. "She is going to be trouble," Cole said. Nova opened one eye. It was not disagreement. Claire arrived after midnight with a box of supplies, snow in her hair, and a paper bag from the only diner still open. "Do not get excited," she said. "It is oatmeal, not a parade." "I have felt less joy about parades." She handed him a container and sat on the floor without asking. For a while they ate in silence, 2 tired people, 1 injured dog, 6 pups, and a stove doing its best. The cabin no longer smelled lonely. It smelled impossible.
Milk. Antiseptic. Smoke. Wet boots. Cheap coffee. Dog fur. And oatmeal with too much cinnamon. Cole preferred it. Around 1 in the morning, Owen knocked and entered with a folder in one hand and his hat in the other. He looked worse than he had in the ravine, which was impressive in a bleak way. "Wade lawyered up," he said. "Of course he did," Claire replied. "Men like that keep attorneys the way other people keep flashlights." Owen set the folder on the table. "The judge approved emergency custody of the dogs. The warehouse evidence is logged. The ledger is being copied. I found the Brooks file before it burned." Cole did not move. The stove clicked. Scout made a wet little sound and settled again. "Say it," Cole said. Owen's throat worked. "Nathan sent me messages 6 months before he died. He suspected Cascade Canine was moving dogs through security contracts tied to private buyers overseas. He had names, routes, partial plate numbers. I treated it like a veteran chasing shadows." Cole stood. The movement made Nova lift her head. Claire watched him carefully but did not interrupt. Owen met his eyes. "Then Nathan died in that avalanche during the winter training exercise. Officially, weather. Bad route, bad timing. But in Wade's ledger there is a payment 2 days before. Initials NB, marked problem removed. I cannot say yet what that proves. I can say I should have started asking questions years ago." The room tightened around Cole. He had carried Nathan's death like a stone inside his ribs, not because he had caused the avalanche. He knew that. Most days. But because he had been on comms when Nathan's signal went weak. Because he had promised extraction. Because weather had closed the sky and command had said no, and Cole had lived. Now there was a new piece of ugliness under the old grief. A human hand where he had blamed only mountain and God and himself. His first feeling was not relief. It was fury, black and clean. "You should have listened," he said. Owen nodded. "Yes." He did not talk nonsense. No, he did not scare easy. No. Cole stepped closer. Claire rose without making noise. Owen did not retreat. That mattered, but not enough. Cole could have broken something, a chair, a jaw. The old version of justice in his body had simple grammar, but Nova shifted behind him, dragging her bandaged paw, and gave one low warning bark. Not at Owen, at Cole. The sound went through him. He turned. The German shepherd mother stared at him from beside her pups, amber eyes clear and exhausted. She had every reason to bite every human in that room. She had chosen not to, again and again, because her pups needed more from her than rage. Cole's hands unclenched slowly. He looked back at Owen. I cannot give you absolution because you discovered paperwork. I am not asking. Good. I am asking to help finish what Nathan started. Cole sat down hard, suddenly too tired to stand. Then finish it. Owen breathed out like a man accepting a sentence. I will. Over the next days, the cabin became less of a bunker and more of a field hospital with bad plumbing. Claire reopened the front room of Snowline Rescue, sweeping ash and dust from the building where the fire had scarred the walls black. Volunteers came quietly at first, then in trucks. An old church group brought blankets. The bakery left day-old rolls for the humans and asked whether dogs could eat cinnamon, which caused Claire to lecture for 9 straight minutes. Owen built temporary kennels and did not complain when one rescued Malinois stole his glove and refused all negotiation. Cole split wood, warmed bottles, repaired latches, and learned the pups by touch and sound, despite telling himself he would not. Scout was pale and stubborn, always late to feed and offended by help. The black-muzzled female bit a towel with such purpose, Cole named her Judge in his head and told no one. A dark male with tan eyebrows slept upside down. A small female with a cream chest kept crawling into Cole's boot. Names gathered whether he wanted them or not. Nova healed slowly. She accepted food from Cole's hand, tolerated Claire's bandages, and watched Owen with a suspicion he considered deserved. She did not become gentle. That was fine. Gentleness was not the price of being saved. One afternoon, Claire found Cole sitting on the porch with Scout tucked in his jacket, both of them looking at the snow. Temporary operational designation still? She asked. Strictly temporary. He is asleep against your heartbeat. That is also temporary. You are a terrible liar, Mercer. He looked at the trees. Nathan used to say that. Claire sat beside him, not touching. Close enough. The grief in that sentence did not ask to be fixed, and she respected it. The valley seemed to be finding its breath. Then, on the 5th morning after Wade's arrest, Claire burst through the cabin door with her phone in hand and a face drained of color. Wade made bail, she said. His attorney got an emergency hearing. He is out until formal charges. Before Cole could answer, a thin cry came from the puppy crate. Nova lurched upright, snarling. Cole crossed the room and counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Scout was gone. Gray morning pressed against the cabin windows, and new snow began to fall in small, hard grains that ticked against the glass. The room by Icicle Creek, crowded with blankets, medicine, and the breath of recovering dogs, turned cold in an instant when Cole counted the pups again and still found only 5. Nova came up from the floor with a sound that made the stove seem to shrink. She shoved her muzzle into the crate, nosed every corner, then swung toward the door with her hackles lifted. Claire dropped to her knees beside the bedding. No blood. That does not make me feel better. It should make you think.
Cole was already reaching for his boots. The first thought had been Wade. Of course it had. Wade out on bail, Wade with money, Wade with men who knew how to open doors and make threats look like weather. Cole's body wanted the enemy clean and named. It wanted permission to be simple. Owen arrived 3 minutes later, called by Claire before Cole had finished lacing.
He came in with snow on his shoulders and a sheriff's department mug in one hand, because apparently even guilt required caffeine. Nova growled at him and then pivoted toward the back wall. Not the door, the wall. Claire saw it first.
"Wait!"
Cole hated that word more than any order shouted at him in training.
"Scout is missing, and Nova is not tracking outside." The shepherd limped to the narrow pantry beside the stove, sniffed hard along the floorboards, then whined. Cole frowned. The sound was not fear of a man leaving with her pup. It was frustration. He pulled the pantry shelves aside. Behind the old flour tin, a mouse hole had been chewed wider by years and badly patched by someone who lived alone and believed denial was carpentry. Cold air leaked through it. Beneath the lower shelf was a gap into the crawl space. A faint squeak rose from below. Cole went flat on the floor so fast his shoulders shouted. "Scout!" The answer came again, thin and offended.
Claire closed her eyes for one blessed second. "He crawled under the pantry." Owen leaned over Cole's shoulder. "That pup moves like a fugitive." Not helping. They pulled up 2 boards and a draft of freezing air spilled into the room. Scout was somewhere below, under the old subfloor, where pipes, dust, and years of mouse nests made a dark maze. He must have smelled Nova through the wood, heard the wind, or followed some mysterious puppy logic known only to God and very small fools. Cole grabbed a flashlight and started to lower himself through the opening. Claire caught his belt. "Your shoulder will jam." "Then unjam it." "The gap narrows under the sink." "He will freeze." "If you get stuck, so will you." Owen set down his mug. "I can go." Cole looked at him. Every instinct said no. Not because Owen was incapable, because handing over the rescue felt like stepping off a cliff. Nova whined again, then pressed her nose to Owen's sleeve. She did not trust him. Not fully. But she understood he was smaller through the chest and uninjured in the right places. Or she simply knew Cole would get stuck and humans needed management. Owen removed his jacket and lowered himself into the gap with a rope tied around his waist. "If I die in a crawl space rescuing a puppy named Scout, I want the report to say I showed uncommon bravery." Claire handed him the flashlight. "It will say you fit." Cole almost laughed. Almost. Owen disappeared under the floor. The cabin listened. Nova stood with her bandaged paw lifted, every muscle quivering. Cole knelt beside the opening, rope around his gloved hands, forced to do nothing but trust the man he had not forgiven. That might have been the hardest part of the whole winter. Owen's voice came muffled from below. "I see him. He is behind the pipe. Hey, little man, do not make me crawl farther. I have a reputation." Scout squeaked. A thump followed. Owen cursed. Claire called. "Language around newborns." "He bit my thumb." "Good suck reflex," Claire said. Encouraging. The rope jerked once. "Pull slow." Cole pulled. Not too hard. Not too fast. He felt Owen's weight, the scrape under the boards, the small pauses when the gap caught his shoulders. Nova pressed against Cole's leg. Her body shook. When Owen emerged, dusty, red-faced, and triumphant, Scout was tucked against his chest inside his shirt, alive and furious. Nova pushed forward and took the pup's whole head in her mouth for one terrifying second, then released him into the crate,
and began washing him with rough, frantic strokes. Owen sat on the floor, coughing dust. "You are welcome," he told her. Nova ignored him completely. Cole offered Owen a hand. The deputy looked at it, then took it. The gesture did not fix everything. Real things rarely did, but it placed one board across a gap. Sometimes that was enough for a day.
Claire checked Scout's temperature and declared him dramatic but stable. Cole leaned against the wall, suddenly weak with relief. "He needs a bell. He needs supervision," Claire said. "He needs a smaller sense of destiny," Owen added. The humor lasted until Owen's radio cracked. "Pike, update. Turner failed to appear for processing check. His SUV located abandoned near Chumstick Highway. Box truck missing from impound overflow. We have reason to believe he removed remaining records before seizure." Owen's face hardened. "Direction? Static. North, possibly toward Stevens Pass. Storm building fast. Road crews pulling back." Claire looked out the window. Snow had thickened, white on white, hiding the trees beyond the porch. "If he gets over the pass, those records disappear." Cole reached for his coat. Claire did not stop him this time. She picked up her medical bag. Owen checked his sidearm. Nova rose, though her injured paw touched the floor with clear pain. Cole turned to her. "No, you stay." Nova stared at him. Then she picked up Scout gently by the scruff and set him in the crate, as if placing her house in order. She limped to the door and stood there, black saddle bristling, amber eyes locked on the storm. Cole understood something then that had nothing to do with obedience. Wade Turner had not only hurt her, he had left a scent in the world that she intended to see end. Outside, far down the road, a church bell began ringing through the snow. Not for service, for weather emergency, for people to come where there was heat, light, and help. Claire's phone buzzed with messages from Snowline. Power out, rescued dogs trapped, generator failing. Wade was fleeing into the same storm that was closing over every animal they had saved. The second storm came down over the Cascade Valley like a door being shut. By noon, the road from Cole's cabin to Leavenworth had become a white trench, and the pines bent so low their branches brushed the truck roof as if trying to warn everyone back. Cole drove because Claire needed both hands to work the radio, and Owen needed his eyes on the road reports. But he drove slower now, accepting the body's limits as information rather than insult. Nova lay in the back seat on a blanket, her 6 pups in a warmed crate secured beside her. Claire had argued. Cole had argued. Nova had ended the meeting by stepping into the truck and refusing to get out. Even injured, a German Shepherd mother could make democracy look fragile. "She should not be putting weight on that paw," Claire said for the 5th time. Nova stared at the back of her head. "She heard you the first 4, Cole said. She is ignoring me with medical consequences. That is her constitutional right." Owen looked over from the passenger seat. "I am surrounded by stubborn mammals." "Self-awareness is a good start," Claire said. The humor was thin, but it held. Snowline Rescue had lost power. The temporary kennels were freezing. Volunteers were moving dogs to the old white church on Front Street, the only building nearby with a working generator, a basement, and enough pew cushions to offend tradition in useful ways. At the same time, Wade Turner had vanished in a stolen box truck, probably carrying remaining records, contacts, and cash. 2 emergencies braided into one storm. Cole hated that. Trouble rarely came in a straight line. It preferred knots. They reached Snowline to find the yard full of people and dogs moving through snow in organized confusion. Claire jumped out before the truck fully stopped and began giving orders. Blankets to the van, small dogs to crates, reactive dogs 1 at a time. No yelling. Watch the ice by the gate. Her voice carried, calm and exact.
People obeyed because she was right more often than she was pleasant, and because love, when properly organized, looks a lot like logistics. Cole lifted crates, shoveled paths, and moved a gray-faced shepherd who leaned against him with the full weight of old fear. Owen coordinated traffic at the gate, face red, phone pressed to one ear, radio in the other hand. Nova remained in the truck until a young volunteer slipped on the ramp and dropped a crate latch. 3 frightened dogs surged toward the open street. Nova exploded from the back seat with a bark that cracked through the storm like a command. She did not run far. She could not. But she placed herself sideways in the path, ears up, tail stiff, body language so clear even humans understood it. Stop. The loose dogs froze, then turned toward the safer hands waiting behind them. Claire looked at Cole.
She is going to tear stitches. Cole watched Nova limp back, satisfied and annoyed. She is also better at crowd control than the county. Owen, overhearing, said, "No argument." They moved the dogs in waves toward the church. Snow rose to mid-shin, then knee, then higher in drifts between buildings. The church bell rang every few minutes, not prettily, but with a human urgency. People arrived carrying thermoses, extension cords, crates, space heaters, towels, and one enormous pot of chicken soup that Claire declared not for dogs, while 3 dogs immediately disagreed. The basement became a shelter of barking, steam, damp coats, and candlelight. Scout and the other pups were set in a quiet room near the furnace, with Nova posted beside them like a wounded sentinel. Cole thought maybe they had reached the center of the storm, where work could be enough. Then Owen's radio came alive. "Box truck spotted on Ski Hill Road, heading toward the old timber bridge. Driver refused stop. Possible Turner. Conditions whiteout." Owen looked at Cole. Claire heard and closed her eyes for half a second. The old timber bridge crossed a narrow gorge above the creek, a shortcut to a private service road that eventually joined the pass. In summer it was foolish. In this weather, it was an invitation to become a cautionary tale. "He cannot make that bridge in a box truck," Cole said. "He may not know that." "He knows," Claire said. "He just thinks consequences are for other people." Cole turned toward the door. Nova rose. "No," Claire said immediately. Nova ignored her again, but this time, before Cole could speak, Scout tumbled from the blanket pile and squeaked. Nova looked back. 5 other pups squirmed. The room waited. The shepherd's body leaned toward the storm, but her eyes stayed on her pups. Cole crouched in front of her. "Stay with them," he said. "You already did enough." Nova stared at him, then at Scout, then at the door. Her whole life had taught her that humans left and did not return, took and did not answer, commanded and called it care. Cole placed his hand flat on the church floor between them. "I come back." It was a dangerous thing to promise. He knew that better than most. Nova lowered her head and pressed her nose to his fingers. One brief touch. Then she lay down beside the pups. Claire saw it and looked away quickly, busying herself with a towel that did not need folding. Cole and Owen drove toward Ski Hill in the sheriff's SUV with chains on the tires and visibility down to the hood ornament. Claire stayed at the church because 37 rescued dogs, 6 pups, and 1 injured mother outranked a manhunt. But she handed Cole a flare, a roll of bandage, and a look that meant come back was not optional. The road climbed into white noise. Halfway up, they found the box truck's tracks swerving wildly. A broken taillight lens glowed red in the snow. Owen slowed. "He is losing control. Or pretending. You think everybody sets traps?" Cole glanced at him. "I think Wade does." They reached the timber bridge as the storm swallowed the last of daylight.
The box truck was there, angled across the approach, engine roaring, rear wheels spinning near the edge where rotten guardrail leaned over black air. Wade stood outside the cab, dragging a metal case from the passenger side. Even at a distance, Cole could see panic had stripped the polish off him. Papers blew from the open door and vanished into the gorge. "Turner!" Owen shouted through the loudspeaker. "Step away from the truck!" Wade fired once into the air. The sound cracked the storm open and slammed Cole backward into memory. But the memory found no empty room this time. It found Nova's nose on his fingers, Claire's voice, Scout's ridiculous fury, Owen's hand taking his in the cabin. Cole breathed. Snow, not dust. Timber, not stone. Here. Wade stumbled toward the bridge with the metal case.
The truck shifted behind him. From somewhere down the road came barking. Not Nova. The rescued dogs at the church had heard the shot, and their voices rolled up the valley, carried by the storm, a chorus of every life Wade had tried to turn into merchandise. The sound unnerved him. He looked back. His boot slipped. Owen moved to flank him, but the bridge groaned under the truck's weight. Cole saw the danger a second before it happened. The rear wheels slid. The truck lurched toward Wade, the metal case, and the broken rail. Cole ran, not fast enough to be young, not strong enough to be untouched, but exactly fast enough to catch Wade by the back of his jacket as the bridge edge began to give way. Snow hammered the old timber bridge above Icicle Creek, and the gorge below breathed up black cold through the broken rail. Cole Mercer had one hand twisted in Wade Turner's jacket and the other locked around a bridge post, slick with ice. The box truck slid another inch behind them, wood shrieking under its weight. Wade clawed at Cole's wrist, not to help, not to steady himself, but to break free with the metal case still clutched against his chest. "Let go," Wade gasped. "You do not even know what is in here." Cole's shoulder burned so hot the world narrowed to red sparks at the edge of his sight. "I know what is behind you." The rear wheel dropped through a rotten plank. Owen shouted from the road, boots skidding as he came forward with a tow strap. "Cole, hold him 10 seconds." 10 seconds could be longer than a deployment, longer than a winter, longer than a prayer spoken with no answer yet. Wade looked down and finally saw the gorge clearly. The arrogance drained from his face, leaving only a frightened man who had built his life on other creatures being more helpless than he was. "Pull me up," he said. It was almost a plea. Cole saw Nathan then, not in a flashback, not bleeding in snow, not calling from a place Cole could not reach. He saw Nathan laughing at Snowline with a mutt under each arm, saw him young and irritated and alive, telling Cole that saving a life did not make you owner of it, just responsible for the next right thing. Cole tightened his grip. "I am." Owen threw the strap. Cole caught it with 2 fingers, nearly lost it, caught it again. Wade tried to clutch the metal case tighter. "Drop the case," Owen barked. "Evidence sinks, so do your odds." Wade hesitated. That hesitation said everything. The truck groaned. Cole felt the bridge post shift under his hand. "Drop it," he said, and there was something in his voice that even Wade understood. The case fell onto the snow between them. Owen hooked the strap under Wade's arms. Together they dragged him back as the rear of the truck broke through the rail and hung over the gorge, engines screaming. A county plow roared up behind them, lights flashing blue and amber through the storm. Deputies spilled out. Someone killed the truck engine. Someone cuffed Wade Turner face down in the snow, and this time no lawyer's smile would walk him neatly out of what the mountain had seen. The metal case held more ledgers, drives, buyer lists, forged veterinary certificates, and a file sealed in plastic with Nathan Brooks's name on it. It did not bring Nathan back. Nothing did. But by dawn,
it brought warrants. By the end of the week, it brought federal investigators. By the end of the month, Cascade Canine Security was no longer a sign on a fence, but a locked gate, seized records, and dogs sleeping somewhere warm under names people spoke with care. Owen testified publicly. He did not dress his failure in pretty language.
He said he had ignored a warning because the truth was inconvenient and the messenger was wounded. He said Nathan Brooks had deserved better. Cole sat in the back row of the hearing with Claire beside him and Scout asleep inside his coat, bigger now, but still convinced the world improved when carried. When Owen stepped down, he looked at Cole. Cole did not nod right away. Forgiveness had never been a switch. It was more like a road under snow, revealed shovel by shovel. But he did nod before Owen turned away. That was one shovel. Nova healed through the slow weeks that followed. Her paw remained stiff in the mornings, and she hated her exercises with a royal bitterness that made Claire call her Your Majesty when no one else was listening. The 6 pups grew round and loud. Judge, the black-muzzled female, learned to escape any pen built by human optimism. The upside-down male went to a retired firefighter and slept on his boots. The green-chested female became a therapy dog for a church widow who said she had not slept through the night in 2 years until that puppy snored beside her. 2 others went to families Owen inspected so thoroughly Claire accused him of trying to marry them off. Scout stayed with Cole because some decisions announced themselves by chewing your bootlaces every morning. Nova stayed too, though nobody said she belonged to Cole. She chose the porch. She chose the stove. She chose to place herself between the pups and strangers, then later between Cole and nightmares when he woke before dawn with his breath broken. That was different from ownership. It was covenant, written in paw prints, coffee spills, and the patient repetition of days. Snowline Rescue reopened fully in spring. The old church group painted kennels. The bakery funded a medical cabinet. Owen built gates that actually latched. Claire ran the place with a clipboard, a tired smile, and Mercy organized into schedules. Cole fixed the roof, split wood, trained volunteers how to approach frightened dogs, and learned that a cabin could be quiet without being empty. He and Claire did not make grand speeches. They drank coffee on the porch after hard days. They argued over bandage storage. She moved a second mug onto his shelf and never asked permission. One morning after the last heavy snow, Cole stepped outside and found Nova standing at the edge of the trees with Scout beside her, both watching the valley turn gold. Nova looked back at him once, amber eyes clear. Then she came to his side and leaned her weight against his leg. Not much. Enough. Cole rested his hand between her ears and felt the future arrive without needing to be easy. The snow kept falling in the high country, but the cabin was no longer a hiding place. It had become a door people knocked on when something wounded needed warmth, and most days, Cole Mercer opened it. Sometimes grace comes to us in a form we would never choose. It may arrive as a wounded dog in a storm. A phone call that interrupts our quiet. A neighbor who needs more patience than we think we have. Or a memory we are finally strong enough to face. Cole thought he was stopping to save Nova and her puppies, but God used that cold road to bring him back to the living. That is often how mercy works. It gives us a task before it gives us an answer. It asks us not to walk past the small cry in the snow. If this story touched your heart, write Amen in the comments and share it with someone who needs hope today. May we all have eyes open enough to see the hurting, hands steady enough to help, and hearts humble enough to be healed while we are helping others.